fight fans, another week of Shoot the Shit podcast here on the Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network, also held on combatpress.com. I'm your host, Riley Kontek, for our 26th episode of this, what is some call the worst podcast in MMA. We proudly take that foot. Before we introduce our guest today, of course, I would like to plug our sponsor. We would like to give a thanks to Cornelius & Sons on home improvement projects that need to be mostly, if you're from Illinois, if you have any indoor home improvement projects, seeing as it's getting colder. I know my heat was on last night while I was sleeping. Again, if you're in the Illinois area, go to Facebook and go to Cornelius & Sons on Facebook and ask for Raul. He does very good work. He'll give you good prices. Like I said, anything from bathroom to flooring to kitchen, he does it all. So again, that is Cornelius & Sons on Facebook. Today we have another great guest on the show. He is a UFC veteran. He has also dabbled in some professional boxing outside of MMA. He is Nohelin Hernandez. Nohelin, thank you for being on the show today, brother.
Yeah, man, happy to be on it.
Yeah, it looks like you brought a little friend with you to the show as well. Is that?
Yeah, I know. My cat just seems to want to barge in right now.
Yeah, no worries. This isn't a one-on-one show. Always feel free to bring friends. Apparently, I can't speak today. I have 3 of these interviews, so I'm going to be running out of words by the end of the day. So Nohelin, great to have you here. You were on the UFC roster for 2 fights. Obviously, that run didn't work out as well as you hoped it would. You were released after the second fight, actually, against the guy who's on the show for this week, Jesus Christ, I can't speak today. Mason
Jack
Jones,
Shore.
Jack Shore. Thank you, God. I'm all these Welsh guys. This is why this is the worst show on the MMA podcast. Just so you know. We had Jack Shore on for this week's show. So this is the first time ever we've had back-to-back guests who have actually fought each other. So Nohelin, just taking a look back on your UFC run, how it didn't work out the way it wanted you. What are some things that, when you take a look at the fights in the aftermath, that you wish you would have done or changed going forward in your MMA career?
Oh man, I can't really say that I would have liked to, of course, have gotten some finishes and some wins in my UFC career. Unfortunately, it's life, it's fighting. These things are very unpredictable. I can't predict what's going to happen. All I can do now is just kind of accept the fact that I lost my last 2. I got released from the UFC, and just continue moving forward. I'm 26 years old. I'm young. If I really want to get back into the UFC, I will. And if that's the goal that I choose to keep pursuing, then I'll keep pursuing it. Right now, what my focus is on things outside of fighting. Of course, I still want to fight. I can't even talk either. I'm actually looking to book my next fight very soon. I'm just gonna take it fight by fight, see what happens, and if I happen to get back into the UFC, I will. If not, then I'm okay with that too.
For sure. And so, what are some of those main focuses you're talking about now that the UFC is over? What's the main focus that you're having right now?
So, I'll just go out and say it. So, I'm looking to pursue opening up and owning my own gym. I have years of experience running a nonprofit that I started by myself years ago that I actually let go to, just focus on fighting full time. Obviously, fighting is my passion. It's something that I want to continue doing, and I want to continue sharing the knowledge that I've gotten over the past 10 years. And my focus really, I want to, put my energy and time into youth martial arts. It did a lot for me, and I just want to reciprocate what it gave me, what fighting gave me, what martial arts gave to me, and I want to give that to another young man or young woman who wants to, pursue fighting. And even if they don't want to pursue fighting, a lot of things, and it's cliche to say and it's corny, but, it's given me personally a lot of confidence. It's given me, discipline. It's, physically I'm healthy, mentally I'm healthy. So I want to give that. I want to give back to everybody that wants to come in through my doors in the future, and just set them up right.
Yeah, I think that's a really good cause, and one of the big things is keeping kids off the streets. Sports in general do that, but I think that there's the element to martial arts, the respect, the discipline, like you were talking about, that I think is really good for kids, and I think that's a great idea. I know the gym that I train at has a kids club, and those are all really good kids, and they obviously enjoy it. And you know, I mean, for kids more or less, you're teaching them a skill and all that, but it's also self-defense. It's teaching confidence and things like that. So I mean, as much as people look down on fighting, I think there's a lot of aspects of it that are actually very positive, especially to children. So I really appreciate that. That's your main focus. I think that's really respectable. In terms of that project that you're working on, is that something that's far off, or is that something that you can see in the near future happening?
I see that in the very near future, and I'm talking about late 2021, maybe early 2022. It's in the near future, it's like a year. It's about a year from now, but as you and I both know, time flies so quick. And with the whole pandemic and everything going on, with everything being closed, I think that by the time this is all cleared and behind us, I think it'll be the perfect time for me to get things going, get things started. So, in the meantime, I've been, just, working away, hustling, and just saving up the money. And I think that for a lot of people, the pandemic has been bad, but I've, just kind of, I think it's been kind of good for me, just putting away the money and saving it up.
Yeah, definitely saving money. I bought a house actually at the beginning of the pandemic, like maybe the first couple of weeks of lockdown, and I think that it was easier saving money when I wasn't allowed to go anywhere, spending a couple
Right.
$100 at the bar as opposed to putting it in the bank and trying to put a down payment on a house and paying for a mortgage. So I definitely understand that. So after your two UFC bouts, it looks like per your record, you've taken a few boxing matches before the lockdown actually happened. It was, three relatively quickly in a row. Is pro boxing where you're going to put your focus, or are you still planning on being more of a MMA fighter? Are you going to split it 50-50? How's that working?
Oh man, you know what? If I'm being honest with myself and the people that are close to me know this, I took those boxing fights as not really a serious thing. Obviously, between I wasn't working the whole time between my me getting to the UFC, so I was just I was living off of fight money, and so boxing was just a way for me to make a quick buck. Wasn't anything ever serious that I didn't ever really take it too serious, although I probably should have. I would spar for 2 weeks and then go take the boxing fight and stuff. Again, it wasn't very serious for me. I will say that boxing, at least at the level that I competed at and what I was able to watch, honestly, it's a shit show where you have guys that are, I don't know, 10-0 fighting guys that are, have completely scrub records and clearly padding them up. Whereas MMA, it's like you could get a tough fight right off the bat. Your first 2-3 fights are tough guys. They're never guaranteed fights. Whereas boxing is the first like 10 to 12, 13 are guaranteed wins. And I got in with some guys that were, high level boxers, and I don't think I ever got. I was never in any danger. And these guys are boxers, man. I'm not a boxer. I can box, but it wasn't. I stood my ground with these guys, and honestly, the boxing record, again, it wasn't very serious. I have a terrible boxing record, but what I'm trying to get at is I stood toe to toe with these guys, and I think that I even won some of these fights. But unfortunately, when you're going into boxing, you're going into their territory.
Right.
They're obviously the A side. Again, it's very political, and obviously, even though I think I won those fights decisively, I got it taken away from me. But it's all good. Again, I was doing it for the money, quick buck. And plus, it was some cool experience. Got to see that world of boxing, and not something that I would ever pursue professionally, like seriously. But it was cool while it lasted.
For sure, and I understand that, and you're not the only guy, obviously, that just takes boxing bouts or grappling bouts for an extra buck. Everybody does, and that's just what you got to do. So obviously, in terms of your mixed martial arts career, I mean, what's next? Are you under contract with anybody? Are you in talks with any promotion to be taking a fight anytime soon? Because obviously, I think the main goal is to get back into one of the major league promotions. So what's the next step?
Absolutely. So the next step is I already talked to my management about this. Looking for a fight. So I'm looking to fight within the next 4 months. I'm gonna give myself this upcoming month to just get ready and I guess get back into shape. And then when I feel like I'm ready, that's when my management will start looking more aggressively. But if any particular promotion that I was thinking about that we're in discussion with, not any one in particular, but LFA is always good. They've always treated me well. Um, I know there's some East Coast promotions that are really good. I believe like CES.
Mhm.
Whoever wants to contract me. But if I was to get a contract even with One or Brave or UAE fighters, whoever really wants to fight or contract me for a fight, I'm willing to take it. And again, it's just taking it fight by fight.
For sure, and yeah, a couple of the ones that you mentioned are definitely good. CES actually just had a show on the Wednesday with John Gotti in the main event, which was interesting.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you mentioned Brave. I mean, that's an up and coming promotion who actually has started feeding fighters into the UFC. They really weren't doing that until like the last few months. And actually, a guy we just had on the show, Jose Shorty Torres, has been fighting for them and is real happy with them. So I've heard good things about Brave. Although I do, most of their fights are in Europe and in the Middle East. So that would be you'd have to do the whole lockdown and self quarantine if you were to take fights overseas. So that's
Right.
never fun. But yeah, I mean, LFA is definitely a great fit, and as you know, they're a pipeline back into the UFC, and you fought there already, so that makes a lot of sense to me as well. So one other thing that one person had talked to me when I was talking to them about doing an interview with them today is you're famous at the weigh-ins for the one time you gave I think it was Brittany Palmer a flower. What was the story behind that, and how did that work out for you?
So the whole roast thing, I mean, for whoever watches this, and it's not a new thing. It's something that I did. I fought for Bellator, and I did the same thing. I pulled out the rose. I just have this thing with roses. I like roses. I have two tribal roses on my shoulders, and it's something that I closely relate to myself. I just like roses, man. There wasn't. What's funny is I don't even think I didn't think in my head. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go give this rose. It was kind of more of a spontaneous thing. I was like, all right, I have a track record of doing this anyway, so I'm just gonna throw it out there. And it kind of caught on. I got some good feedback on it. I believe Brittany Palmer even reposted it on her Instagram story from what somebody told me. And yeah, it was something cool. So I think that you can't just be a fighter. There's whole entertainment to it.
Yep.
And maybe some people thought it was corny, whatever. I mean, it was my thing. It'll probably continue, but yeah, there was no real like planning behind it. It was just kind of a spontaneous thing to do. I was just like, I'm just gonna grab some roses and give it to whoever the first pretty girl I see. And Pretty Palmer was there, and why not?
Perfect. I mean, that's the person I think I'd give the rose to as well. Big fan of Brittany Palmer. Although her art's pretty cool too. I don't know if you've ever seen her art. She's a really good artist.
I haven't.
Oh yeah, check out her website. She's got some really cool stuff on there. Now,
Nice.
before we get to the weekend's UFC card, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Halloween. Any big Halloween plans for you?
Well, I mean, because of the pandemic, I don't think so. But me and my girlfriend are thinking about dressing up as Cort. She's gonna dress up as Morticia, and I'm gonna be Cortez. And I have a few pets that I'm hoping to fill in the rest of the Adams family.
There you
And
go.
we'll see how it goes.
That's a good one. Yeah, it was Gomez Adams, but yeah, I get what you're saying. But yeah, that's a good one. I think that's a great costume. You said your wife or your girlfriend or your wife?
My girlfriend. Not married yet.
She must
I'm
not like
far
the
far
roast
from
thing too
that. Far from that, brother.
much. For sure. Awesome. Now let's get to the UFC card at hand. This weekend we have UFC 254. If I'm not mistaken, it is taking place on Fight Island, as are many of the cards in the recent times here. So we got a full 5-fight main card. You and I are going to discuss the top 3 fights on the card. One of the fights is a women's fight that had a really late replacement. Most people, unless you're a nerd like me who literally only watches regional MMA, probably not too intact with this person. So we'll just talk about the top 3. The first fight is a heavyweight bout. You got former Bellator champion Alexander Volkov taking on really who's become a hero of sorts in Walt Harris. The tragic story about his stepdaughter and all that. I believe he's actually running for office in his local municipality. But a guy who a lot of people have rallied behind in Walt Harris. So Nolan, why don't you give us the breakdown of what you see in this fight, and if you got a prediction for who takes it home, give it to us.
You know what? I think that Walt Harris is probably the better athlete of these two. I look at Alexander Volkov, and I look at his past experience, past performances, and and it's just his body type is what kind of throws me off about him, because he's just almost so tall and lanky that he shows it in the fight, right? Like lanky, tall people will tend to move a little awkwardly.
Yep.
They're long, so I think he's gonna have a good jab and stuff. But I think Walt Harris is probably better equipped to wear Volkov down, and I think Harris might get the finish. Honestly, I think he'll get a finish. Probably TKO. I think Walt Harris will be a little too much for Volkov, and he'll probably TKO. Maybe second or third round. My opinion.
Interesting. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Harris is definitely the better natural athlete. I think he's probably physically more strong than Volkov. But like you said, Volkov very lanky, sits behind his jab very well, good striker. I'm looking at Volkov's record. He's fallen on hard times. He's 1-2 in his last 3, but I mean before that, he knocked out Fabricio Verdum, knocked out Stefan Struve. Pretty one-sided decision over Roy Nelson. So I mean, Volkov is definitely no pushover. I think this will be a glorified kickboxing match with 4-ounce gloves. And I agree. I think if Harris catches him, I'm the opposite. I think if Harris catches him early, I think Harris takes the fight. I think as the fight goes on, though, I think Volkov will get stronger. He'll sit behind that jab. He'll gauge the distance, and he'll outstrike Harris, likely to a decision victory. In the co-main event of 254, we got the middleweights. We got former middleweight champion Robert Whittaker. He will be taking on a guy who, if he wins, will probably be the next contender to Israel Adesanya. That is Jared Cannonier. So what do you think about this one, Nolan?
That's a good one, man. And me and Jared fought on the same card in Copenhagen. The guy's an animal, man. But I mean, that's just a great fight, honestly, overall. Robert Whittaker being Robert Whittaker, obviously the former middleweight champion. Jared's like the up and comer guy. But I would honestly say that Robert Whittaker might edge it out. My heart kind of leaned more towards him, but something in my head also tells me that Jared Cannonier's got a good chance of taking that back or taking that win. Mm-hmm. The reason I say that is because Robert Whittaker is kind of he's on a losing streak right now, right? He's
Whittaker won his last fight. It was a decision over Darren Till in July.
Oh, okay, that's right.
I forgot about that one too till I just looked it up.
Yeah, the last thing I remember from him was fighting Adesanya, getting KO'd. I'm gonna stay with Robert Whittaker and say that he's gonna win. Don't know how. That's just kind of up for I don't know, debate, but good fight overall, man.
Yeah, I think it's good matchmaking. And this was the fight I said to make after Whittaker's last win and Cannonier's last win. I thought this was the fight to make, so good job on the matchmaker's part. Cannonier is a guy who actually started his career at heavyweight, and now he's all the way down to middleweight. So that tells you a lot about his transformation. But he's on a 3-fight win streak, all by knockout. Knocked out Jack Hermanson, which in what I considered an upset. TKO'd Anderson Silva with leg kicks. That was when Anderson hurt his knee, I believe. And then a TKO over Dave Branch. Cannonier, I think, has the pure power advantage in terms of just pure raw power. I think Whittaker has similar power, just a tad less. He's far more technical than Cannonier, especially on the feet when it comes to movement, footwork, cutting off the cage, things like that. I'm also going to take Whittaker. I don't know if he knocks out Cannonier, but if he does knock out Cannonier, I think it'll be late second, early third round. Mm-hmm. Now, moving on to the main event, this is the one everyone's waiting for. And then, so before we talk about the main event, definitely since the pandemic has started, pay-per-view numbers have been up. I think one of the reasons being is that live attendance is not allowed, so those people now have to stay home and watch. I think the other reason is that we were deprived of sports, so people were just looking to watch anything that's on. And obviously, we've had limited baseball season, we've had discontinued and then restarted NBA and hockey season. But the last pay-per-view still, which was Israel and Paulo Costa, still did about 700,000 plus pay-per-views, which is a pretty damn good number. Now we have Khabib Nurmagomedov and Justin Gaethje. Do you think that this pay-per-view will reach 1 million buys?
You know what? I'm going to be honest and say that I don't know how the pay-per-view – I don't know those numbers, the whole pay-per-view and stuff. I'm kind of one of those guys that just kind of watches the fight. I don't always pay attention to the numbers,
Mhm.
although I do sometimes. I think that this is going to be a huge sale. I mean, not just for the United States, but in Europe. And then
Yep.
you're talking about back in the Middle East, like in Abu Dhabi, people, in that area, people are going to be buying this because of Khabib. And I think Khabib over the years has turned into such a star that people that don't even know about fighting are just going to be like, oh, hey, well, there's this fight card coming on. Well, people that like me, maybe they got some buddies at the house. They're just going to want to order it just because it's just one of those fights that you just got to watch, even though you might not necessarily know who Khabib is or Justin is. It's gonna be a huge sale. Um, I just don't know how. Again, I don't know the numbers, but it's gonna be big.
For sure. And, some of the biggest numbers we've seen with pay-per-view have come as a result of the pandemic. Masvidal Usman broke 1 million buys. That was a big one. And again, even Israel Adesanya Costa was 700 plus thousand. There's a good chance that I think this breaks 1 million just based on Khabib. But I mean, the random fan who sees Justin Gaethje and is just like, dude, this guy's a violent dude. I think that'll also sell the fight against the guy who just has no one's even been close to beating. So,
Right.
in terms of the breakdown of this fight, how do you see this fight going, and what is your prediction?
Okay, so this I feel like I'm a little better equipped to answer, um, just because I mean, obviously training at AKA, I've seen what the Russians bring whenever they're at the gym, and I mean, obviously it's not hard to see that it's the wrestling and the pressure that they put on you.
Mhm.
So Habib's got that going. I still don't think that Habib is as articulate when it comes to striking as he is with his grappling.
Right.
Um, I think that Justin has a huge advantage when it comes to that. Not just that, but I mean Justin's a good wrestler and he's a dog. He's the guy's a dog, man. I've seen a lot of his fights. Going back to PFL days, where he's using kicks to finish guys, and I don't know if Habib is ready for those kicks, especially if Justin goes really low, like calf kicks.
Yeah.
If Justin can keep the distance and use his striking in the pocket without getting taken down, I think it might be a good night for Justin. But if Habib can pressure Justin back against the cage, take him down and do what he does to everybody else, I think Justin might have an answer for it early in the fight. But as the fight goes on, he's just gonna wear Justin down,
Yep.
and I think might get a maybe unanimous decision over Gaethje. But I don't necessarily think that Habib would be able to finish Gaethje. Whereas I believe that Justin has the power to finish Khabib
Mm-hmm.
if it gets to that. But it's just again this is a hard prediction because I mean obviously Khabib is undefeated for a reason. Justin's a dog. I'm sure he's gonna go out there and prove why he's there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just gonna go with Khabib just because he's undefeated. The guy's an animal.
Yeah.
People have tried to beat him. They haven't. I was thinking that other people were going to beat him before Justin, but it's just one of those things where he just proves people wrong. He proved me wrong multiple times, to the point where it's like, okay, you can't go against what he shows all the time. So
Right, right. I mean, he's a guy that I've heard, and I'm sure you can attest that he'll ragdoll guys a few weight classes above him with his wrestling. I've definitely heard that from training partners before. But yeah, I think your breakdown's accurate. I think the big key here is going to be leg kicks. Justin Gaethje is one of the best leg kickers in probably the lower weight classes. Anything
yeah,
below, he's nasty. And yeah, nobody ever talks about the fact that he's a collegiate wrestler. He has a college wrestling background. Now, will that wrestling be better than Khabib's? I doubt it, because Khabib has shown that he has better wrestling than guys with collegiate wrestling backgrounds. So I agree also with the sentiment you said. The longer the fight goes on, I think the longer it favors Khabib. I have seen Justin get tired before, and Khabib doesn't really seem like he gets tired too much. So I'm with you. I will take Khabib here. It's either going to be a late 4th, 5th round submission, or like you said, he will likely take it to decision. So I think your breakdown was accurate there. So Nolan, that is all. So thank you very much for stopping on the show. I will give you some time here to whore yourself out. Tell us where we can find you. If you want to shout out anybody, please go ahead.
Yeah, just follow me on Instagram, Suave_135, Twitter, Suave_135. That's all I really have to plug in. The last thing actually is just be on the lookout for my next fight. I obviously wasn't able to show my full skill set my last fight, and it was very disappointing. But I'm just moving forward and looking to showcase my skills to the best of their ability my next fight. So just stay tuned, guys.
We will, and as I say with other fighters on the show, I will make sure that once your fight is announced, that it is retweeted, it is put on social media. We will keep an eye on you. Any friend of the show is a friend of ours. So I will plug myself real quick, and I'll let you go here. Make sure you check out Combat Press, Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network. New episodes every week of this fine show, if you can call it that. Also go to MMA Intel, new scouting reports every week on non-UFC fighters. We got rankings, prospect rankings, predictions, matches to make after each UFC card, all the good stuff there. We also put the archives of this podcast on that website as well. And that's pretty much all I have. So again, Nolan, thank you for stopping on the show today. We really appreciate having you here.
Of course.
All right, so for Nohelin Hernandez, I am Riley Kontek saying keep watching the fights, keep watching the show, and go fuck yourselves. Good night.